Good morning, everybody. The No Yelling Challenge. How are we all doing? Today is day 3. I've not yet seen anybody, but why is my hair distracting me today? I'm not yet seeing anybody, but we'll go ahead to do our introductory part before you join us. So if you just say a hello and say a hi. Say a hello and say a hi. Let me know that you're here with me. Okay, someone has joined. Yep. Welcome. If you can see me, say something. Say something. Let me know that you can see me. Okay. Hello, Jane. Good morning. Welcome to day 3 of our challenge. Welcome. Thank you for joining. You joined very early, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you. Today we are doing day 3, and in the day 3, we really don't have much to, discuss today, except that we want to see the effects of yelling in our children, what it does to our children's brain, and what it does to us as parents. What's the downside of yelling for us as parents? So, if you're joining me and you're meeting me for the very first time, my name is Vivian Ani, and I'm the founder of the Proactive Parenting Training. How are you learning rewires the child's brain? That's number one. And number two, we are looking at the mental issues surrounding yelling. How yelling rewires the child's brain. That's number one. And number two, we are looking at the mental issues surrounding yelling and how the downside of yelling to us, the parents. So let me start with the children. Research has shown that yelling at kids, creates fear, makes children to run into flight or to run into fights with you. And why is it like that? There's a primitive part of the brain called the amygdala. It's on the limbic system of the brain. The amygdala is responsible for emotions, and the amygdala is also primarily the one that sends information, about emotions. So let me start with the research of R. Douglas Fields. R. Douglas Fields is a neuroscientist. We know that neuroscientists are people who study the brain, who know and explains what happens in the brain, with their researches. And he's also the author of Why We Snap. Why We Snap. Snap like, why we slip off or snap when we get angry. Is a book. You can also get that book. I read it some years ago, and it opened my mind and my head to all that neuroscience is saying about the brain development of children. And from that moment, God brought a drastic change for me to concerning yelling. I began to see all that yelling does to the children's brain and why people behave the way they behave, because their brain has been conditioned in a certain way, so they cannot, there are things they can't do no matter what you do about it. Their brain have been conditioned, probably from when they are children or when while they are growing or something, and so they cannot go extra miles, because of the way their brain has been programmed. So that author, that Douglas Fields, who is the author of of Why We Snap, he said something. He said that there's a physiology of meltdown in the amygdala. And this physiology, when this meltdown happens, it causes the brain to shrink, a child's brain to shrink. When I read that part, and I'm like, wow, if the responsive part of the brain, which is the amygdala, shrinks while we shout at children or while we yell at children, and tells children primarily, that this environment is not safe. The whole of the study, what it shows is the brain of that child, the part of that brain tells the child, this environment is not safe. This environment is chaotic. This environment um, is tensed, is filled with fear. What it does for the child is that it shuts the thinking part of the brain of the child and makes that amygdala to become more reactive. when you want to attack somebody or when you want to fight somebody unknowingly, the person may not be able to, get ready for the fight, and then you come and the person feels like, wow, what happened? But someone who knows that you're coming to fight or you're coming to attack the person is like battle ready, when you attack him or her. That's what the amygdala does, and that's what the amygdala does, and that's what it teaches the brain of the child. It tells the child that this place is not safe. Message to the brain, to the child's brain, telling him or her, this place is not is not safe. Move. This place is not safe. Run. This place is not safe. Don't talk. This place is not safe. Shut down. So when you say your child is not listening, your child is not responding, your child doesn't do this, your child doesn't do that, it is because the brain is already, the amygdala is already telling the child, the brain of the child, come, run away, come, run to flight, come, fight back. Depending on what the amygdala, the kind of person the child is, that's the kind of response the child will give to you as a parent when you are you are talking to him or talking to her. So that part of the brain primarily is programmed with fear. When you're shouting, when you're yelling, when you're doing, things that will make become programmed with fear. So it becomes excessively reactive, and reduces the way the child thinks. Instead of the response that amygdala teaching the child or helping the child to do things that, for instance, you're programming that amygdala to respond to things politely, respond to it in a way that is more favorable. Instead of that kind of response, amygdala is being programmed in fear. So when you are shouting and yelling, amygdala is primarily the brain that is responsible for the information that you're already giving to the child. So the child the brain is programmed to be in fear. What does that do to this child? What is the effect of this fear that you are programming in the child's brain? Number one, it limits how your child thinks. Your child cannot doesn't have the capacity to go through a thought process that is holistic. Your child doesn't have that capacity because this part of the brain, which should be responsive for giving informations for emotions, is already shut down. So your child cannot think. It limits your child from thinking. It limits your child from operating on higher functions. Let me share a story with you that helps me also wake up to this call. And it made me also realize that we just look at healing as there's nothing in it. Aside all other things that it does, like the voice today we shared about the thin line between verbal abuse and yelling, which nobody talks about. Because while you're shouting, the next thing you snap off, like the author said, you snap off and you find yourself abusing, raining curses, and all that. Things that you don't even know that you can do. Things you don't know that you can do. I worked with a woman last year that told me that she'd never believed that she can she can tell her child, there's a word she used, but that word is like she said it in a tribe in Edo. She said it's like how did she say it? It's like saying telling somebody you are doomed, a kind of, and she said she used a hot pot and threw at the daughter, that she would never ever believe it. When you're doing these things, the adrenaline rushes in the blood system, like we shared. The adrenaline rushes in the blood system and makes you feel good. That what you're doing is okay. That's why when you're hitting a child, as you're hitting, instead of you to hit the child once and go, you won't find yourself hitting and going. You find yourself, why? You hit again, you hit again. The adrenaline is rushing in the blood and making you to increase, to increase, to increase. And when you're doing this, the So that's what the adrenaline does. So when you program this amygdala to please do let me know, Jane, and other people that I can see so many people. If I'm still heard, please do let me know. I'm having cough, I'm having catarrh, so I don't know if it's affecting what I'm saying. If I'm still heard, do let me know. Let me know that you're hearing me. So when you hear that the 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 yelling and the shouting and the chaotic environment in your home shuts down the thinking part of your child's brain. Of course, you should also know that it's not in a positive way. So I'm trying to count the effects, few of the effects, because in the assessment today, I shared some of the things um, yelling does to the child's brain and does to you as a parent, so that you begin to look at it in the bigger picture. One of the things it does to the child is that the child is not able to think. The child follows everything, does anything, because of course you also are in your yelling and shouting, you want to forcefully make the child to obey everything. So the child is not capable of thinking through whether you're there or not there. The child cannot make decisions. The child is waiting for you. Okay, Okay, thank you, Jane. So the child is waiting for you to initiate what should be done, or waiting for wherever he is or she is. She's waiting for somebody to tell him, you should have packed the plates, you should have cleaned the table, you should have gone to school by 7, you should have done this, you should have done that. The child is not able to think holistically. You've shut down the thinking part of the brain. So the child is not an independent thinking person. He's waiting for, you know, when you will say, when they will tell him, and all of that. So that's what one thing that healing does to a child's brain when you have shut down the thinking part. Another thing it does is a child is not able to take decisions on his own. He's not able to take decisions. I was sharing yesterday before I got cut off about on Sunday we weren't at home, and my 9-year-old said she looked at the time after we returned from mass, that she looked at the time that we will soon be home and the food wasn't ready. So she started making boiling rice, and she boiled, I think, 12 cups of rice, she said, 10 cups of rice, I can't remember. She said she was sharing with a friend. My friend was asking, how did you get her to get this food done at this time and all of that without you people being there, so she can on the gas, so she can do this, so she can do that? So I started sharing with her. Some of these things are done intentionally. I told her that because of the kind of children I have, I needed to start working on executive functioning skill. In fact, no matter the kind of child you have, executive functioning skill is a must, is a key for raising a child today. Because the digital is here, there are a lot of things that will cause them to be distracted and not be focused. So I saw how impulsive my children were, and most children today are very impulsive. They want to watch cartoon, they want to touch this, they want to touch that, they want to do this and that. So I started the cooking skill on time, and at 7, I started teaching her how to on the gas, how to safety measures primarily. I started teaching her all the safety measures. Of course, at that time, we were also working on safety measures on the road, safety measures in public places, safety measures on different areas of safety. So I did the safety measures with her for a while, like I think 6, 7 months, and she got it. And I began, the supervision of how she should be doing, how she should be putting the gas, how she should be doing this and all that. And with that, she started at 8. She started making boiling rice. She started making boiling rice. She started frying egg, cooking. She does most of the cooking. My baby brother was hungry. That's the smallest, the youngest. My baby brother was hungry. I needed to make akamu. That's pap. I needed to make pap for him. I needed to do this and that. That's why I did this and did that. And I'm like, oh wow, thank you very much. Were you able to do this? Were you able to do that? Were you able to do this? Were you able to do that? And I'm like, oh wow, thank you very much. Were you able to do this? Were you able to clean up? Woman, don't even raise your. I sometimes help out. There are days you come in, everywhere is water, everywhere is mess. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. messed up, it is part of the parenting, it is part of the training, it's part of the teaching. You cannot parent without. I wasn't what was wrong with the kitchen and what was the mess. I was looking at our that everywhere is messed up. Till tomorrow it will be next tomorrow. I think even yesterday when my 7-year-old was washing plates, everywhere was water. But parenting is in the mess. So you is in the mess. You get them, you know, until they come to the place where you no longer have the mess. But if you keep saying I cannot, then you don't want them to mess everywhere up, you will never ever raise a child who can take decisions, who can make planning on his own, who can be independently thinking on how he should do this or how he should do that. These skills are actually taught because what you're trying to program, the brain also shorten the child's thinking part of brain does to the child is that your child will start having behavioral issues. So when you see all the misbehaviors and all that, it is because a child cannot is not you are looking at it that he should have known that he should do this, he should do that. But it's not just he should have known, he doesn't know because the brain is not telling him what to do. The brain is not programmed, the brain is not trained. Our brain is tenable. Our brain is tenable. So the brain is not trained. Yes, Jane. Our brain is not trained, the brain of the child is not trained to understand that he should have. Is you who is an adult is looking at him that he should have done this or should have done that. So the child will start having behavioral issues. That's another effect of yelling for a child. Behavioral issues. The child is in fear. The child doesn't know whether mommy will quarrel. Even this morning, I am telling you this for you to know that the challenges are every day. It's not going to stop because you have learned something today and this year it will not stop. It is everyday thing till we get to the 18 years when we launch our children out as adults. And even at 18, I know guidance continues till today. Even us that are telling us and all of that. But at least we have known that we're in the right place. We have known that we're in the right place. And we are independent. That's when the child is now in the society proper. But from this time, how do you prepare the child if you're not intentionally doing things every day, every week, every month, yearly? How do you prepare the child for that? Their parents are still hiring people who their 17-year-old cannot do stuff, because they cannot do it because they were not taught. Nothing comes chores generally is one thing that has been from generation to generation that there's a longitudinal research I read. I think it was in 1941 that research was done. And the children that were born between 1941 to 1941 research was carried out, the gap with and teaching a child plenty skills. It teaches a child planning. It teaches a child what is it, organization. You then try to organize your space, you try to organize your things, you try to organize, when a child is doing all these chores, he's like, okay, for instance, your child washes plates. My 7-year-old is the one washing this week. He finishes his plates. He sometimes not in the sink. He brings down his bowl on down and washes. After he finish washing, maybe he will start putting it in the plate rack. That's organization. He's learning how to organize it. And when he put it finishes putting it in the plate rack, he finishes putting it in the organizing everywhere. Stuff. You want a child to start he should know that the child is going back to school tomorrow. You're packing his things. I laugh because it shows that you have failed in a particular duty. That's why you are scared. Your child cannot go out. Your child cannot go to the dormitory. Your child cannot do this. Your child cannot do that. It is because there's something you have not prepared your child for life. If you have prepared your child for life, you won't be afraid. Oh, dormitory, my child cannot. My it is even because your child is not an independent thinking. That's why he shouldn't even leave the house in the first place. He should be with you because he's not an independent thinking child. He shouldn't even leave the house. So it is good when you say, my child is not going out, he can't go to the dormitory. I understand it. When people argue, make it a point of argument as if dormitory is good. I laugh about it because I see the huge ignorance that the parents show in their children. So is it said? Another thing, apart, I said yes, Jane. All manner of behavioral issues, and every vice you see in the society today started from behavioral issues when the child was small. You were thinking he will stop, he will overgrown it. The way we say now, he will overgrown it. The parents were sharing with me, I think last week, about how the mother did everything. The brother was started becoming rebellious from the childhood. Their parents did this, their parents did that. Till today, he just wants to be a wasted child. I said it's not true. It's not because he wants to be a wasted child. Just because it wasn't handled well, or in the ignorance of your parents, they didn't know how best to handle it. And then these behavioral issues, they escalate later in life and become all the vice is shut down. Your child will start having behavioral issues. Your child is not also because you see children that are very impulsive, they are very impulsive, they want to touch this, they want to touch that. Of course, the digital has even helped it to be worse. Children today, they are either on the cartoon 24 hours, they are touching this, they are playing this, they cannot concentrate to do anything. They are distracted. It is because the brain has not been trained to understand, or did not learn that in case of in times of problem or in times of situation that arises where you don't like or you don't want it to be worse. You also know that yelling can cause a child to lack concentration. Children who are being yelled at, you come to school, you see children who are always moody or frowning face or angry. All of these things is because there's something they are thinking in their head. Like, mommy made me angry. My first son, I always use that one because he's the one that led me into all the diverse things that I've learned about emotions. His emotion was such a bad one that at 2 and 3, like I said yesterday, I already knew that this one needs to be trained. Emotional intelligence needs to be worked into this one, and I would be the one with his father to show him how to do it. And with pause, which is the greatest language in emotional intelligence, he learned to pause before 5. My son will stand like this and be telling me, I'm just watching this same boy. But you may not know what to do and start jumping around, hitting the child, flogging the child, and shouting. At the end of the child becomes triples all of those things that you're doing, or the behavioral issues that were setting, and you're wondering why. It is because the child did not understand or did not learn that in times of problem or in times of situations that arises where you don't like or you don't want it to be um, chaotic, you need to pause. You need to be calm. You didn't teach him calmness, so he cannot be calm. She cannot be calm. So children also lack concentration when you're shouting. My is not an enemy. Take your time, take a deep breath, and do the correction when the child is able to listen to you. Not when there's anger and tension already. You want to start, why didn't you? Why didn't you? We're always in a haste to do all of these things. So lack of concentration, yelling can cause children to lack concentration. They get to school, they are moody. Teacher is asking them questions. Then why are you not talking? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? Someone sent me a chat last week of how the son is a tiger at home. I told the woman out. The what is ringing in their head is how mommy was shouting, they feel bitter, how daddy did this, how daddy did that. So all of those things becomes the voice in their head, So they lose concentration when they're outside. Another thing yelling does to children. I shared all of these things in the assessment today. For the downside of the parents. When you get when you get them and look at it, outside you. Another thing, I don't know if you have also observed that, that and other. Mental disorder is when it has degenerated and become a sickness. But mental issues, I shared this one extensively in the guide. So make sure that you get that new healing guide. It's going to help you to understand this thing even more deeper. So mental issues in adults, excuse me, mental issues in adults. What causes it is number one, I said yearly makes you the adult. Excuse me. Mental issues in adults. If you have noticed also, very recently, very recently, people in their 30s, mid 30s, mid 40s are having so much of BP and all the issues around their health. One of the things that research have shown is that all of these things are caused by most times yearly. By the time you're shouting, over time, there's something called a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that is in the bloodstream, that causes or makes makes the BP, to increase while you're shouting, while the generations ahead of us are, and they say I a proof that those generations, as regards them, their country is cortisol that is in the bloodstream increases, and that's how BP sets in. So, what does yelling do to you? Yelling displays stress. Yelling causes personality changes in adults. You see a woman, you see a man that is very organized, you just see him very suddenly, he start becoming tattered, he start, having loss of memory. You're telling him he's not even hearing you. Yes, the network is sad feelings, you know, you see psychological effects all over. So all of these things happens in the brain because the different parts of the brain has different functions. It will determine which kind of symptom to exhibit. The brain will the stress or the physical signs you will see will determine the which part of the brain that is being affected. That's what will determine the kind of um, symptom you will see. you know. So I shared most of it and I said everybody should look at it and see if you're seeing yourself in any of the pictures. Sometimes you feel so sad, so depressed, so everything. Is yes, and all the things that will happen. I had an auntie. I had an auntie that died at 20. She died. We talked and we talked and a day before she died. So I knew at the point when they said she fell, I knew it was BP. We were like, oh, she didn't fall sick. Nothing happened to her. So why would you not even know that all stress so many remarkably that though I shared it in the No Yelling, emotions carry energy. Emotions carry the energy in your home to be a negative one. Don't allow the energy in your home to be a negative one. Emotions carry energy. You know, they carry a very high energy. And if you allow the to run you down and it will run the children down also. Try to create a positive you do thing with the children. Today, yesterday night, what we did was that it gives you with the children. While I was mimicking with my 4-year-old, the yes, emotion carry high energy. Yes, Ada, it carries high energy. We don't have in my home. There's the structure of how the home should be run, and the children don't have screen time all through the week. For instance, the documentary they watched last week, they had to share it, do presentation for us and share the slides on what they watched. So we don't have anything like screen, and then you go and hook the children. Screen is another thing that shuts the thinking part of the children's brain. They will think that what they are watching is the reality. It's not the reality. What your child needs to thrive in this life, in this 21st century, is not on screen. It's not in any TV. So if screen must be watched, it must be watched, with reasons, with purpose, with a goal, and it will add value to the children. Not just keeping them, sticking them down, be saying they're learning from cartoon. They're not learning anything. You are the one thinking they're learning. And the way they speak and all of that, and we give all the reasons and we can be shutting them. So when you wonder why children are not able to do things themselves or think for themselves, it's all of these things that happens that causes it. So understand that emotion carries energy. Good, Ada, thank you. You see. So it is very key when you stood. For instance, yesterday night we were just doing mimicking animals and their sounds. I was doing it with the 4-year-old in our connection to yesterday. My 4-year-old, while we were doing the mimicking, and he started telling me, sharing things. that made the other siblings, they too also had their own fair part of the what they shared. And after that, we went ahead to the second thing that we needed to do before everybody retired at 8 p.m. They left. We just used it as our bedtime story, and they will sleep with that energy. So when the child is waking up also tomorrow morning, the child is waking with a positive energy, with smiles, with laughter. That will make him do better in his exams. And puts music early morning, like 7 o'clock. That's he puts all these kind of all those musics. Everybody's waking up with this positive energy, and then at 5 a.m. he starts the morning prayer. So make sure that the home has positive energy. Don't get the home chaotic. It's affecting the children's brain. They get lost. They get lost. And yelling, because of how aggressive it is, it teaches children also to be aggressive. So don't wonder when a child shouts, when a child is not talking politely, he's aggressive. Is because the yelling teaches them to be aggressive. So the network is so unfriendly to us today. So while we conclude, when I share the assessment today, go through it and look at it, even more deeper, the things that healing does, and see if there's anyone that resonates with you, and send your reply, your response again. So many of you have not sent the yesterday response. We continue in the group. We continue to look at it, because the essence of all of these things, the 10 tools that we're replacing in the no yelling guide, it is also detailed in the guide. So when you get the guide also, by the time we launch it, maybe God willing, next week, all of, and you go through. How will also finish this year? It's not going to finish next year. It's not going to finish today. That you're learning, you're learning to, for being here today. We'll see you again tomorrow by the grace of God. Thank you for being here. Ada, thank you. Jane, thank you very much. We'll see you again tomorrow. The network is so unfavorable. So let's end the class here, and then we'll continue in the group. You have an amazing, amazing day.